Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include Diablo IV Season 2 kicking off to some surprising feedback, the end of an era for Bethesda, the worst game of 2023 releasing, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the description below, but right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. But before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website, Riker.com, using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily, and with zero education in the field. All thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Watch how easily I update the Diablo IV section of my website to include all my video coverage of Season 2. Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website, with tons of templates that you can easily customize to your needs, no knowledge of coding required. And with their new Fluid engine, it's easier than ever. You just drag and drop elements to move and resize. You can even set up a custom merch shop with Squarespace now. You just design your products, and they handle production, inventory, and shipping. All the stuff that would be a nightmare to handle on your own. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. It's the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything. Your products, content you create, even your time. And Squarespace is offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Riker or click the link in the description below to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Riker to get started today. Kicking things off with some Diablo IV news. This week saw the start of Diablo IV Season 2, as well as Diablo 4's official launch on Steam. But before Season 2 could kick off at the officially scheduled time, well, it had to be delayed by a few hours. Shortly before the season started, Blizzard posted that they encountered some technical issues with the current build, and they would be delaying the Season of Blood start time by a few hours to fix things. That was the first bummer of Season 2. Some people take Season Start very seriously. They get hyper competitive. They want to race to be first, or maybe not first, but you know, they just want to race to either level 100 or whatever milestone. Maybe they've taken time off work. Maybe they've scheduled things. And so to just have this ephemeral, well, it's going to be delayed a few hours, that can disrupt some plans. In the case of Diablo 3, we would have some time between the deployment of the patch and the start of the season. This generally meant that whenever season started, it was smooth because the patch would deploy a few days earlier. If there was any issues, that would be caught before the season would actually start. It seems like what Blizzard was trying to do was have this seamless transition from Season 1 to Season 2 with zero game downtime, and, well, didn't really work out. Probably just having like a few hours of maintenance where all servers were off so they can ensure everything launched smoothly might have been the better decision here. But of course, if everything had gone off without a hitch, then, well, we wouldn't be talking about this. That said, I'm not sure that they actually caught all of the issues, because I don't know about you folks. Well, no, I do know about you folks. We've all been having a lot of trouble. Crashes, lag. This was a very non-smooth launch. D4's launch was very smooth. Season 1's launch was very smooth. Now the game is unstable. I keep crashing and getting rolled back. I see other people saying as well they're getting high latency. They're also crashing. It was getting quite frustrating at some point, and the good news here is that that's really the worst that could be said about Season 2. And everything else, the actual content, has been good. Once you're actually playing and you're not dropping and not disconnecting, the content that we actually have to play through, I'm seeing universal acclaim. Both the content, the changes, the balance changes, the improvements, the quality of life. Back when I was in Europe, in Germany, for Gamescom in August, this was shortly after the launch of Season 1, I spoke to a few dozen people spoke to me about Diablo 4, and 95% plus of them had a dismal view. They were in some way disappointed. It was quite disheartening to see just how many had this opinion. And now I'm seeing from chat, I'm seeing from you folks telling me, now it's 95% plus positive opinion on Season 2. Which is great to see. The improvements to the mounts, the horses feel so good. Being able to charge through barriers and just smash them down is awesome. The mount doesn't get stuck on stuff anymore for whatever reason. The new vampiric powers feel fun. They're not OP, but they're noticeable. You can appreciate them as you're leveling. They're a nice upgrade to your character. The new activity is something that you engage with from the start. It's fun to engage with. You want to continue to engage with it. You have reason to continue to engage with it. It is rewarding. It adds a twist on the kind of gameplay that we were doing. Altogether, the leveling experience from 1 to 50 is so much more fun than it was in Season 1. Again, there's more things to do. We're doing different things. We're doing more rewarding things. Altogether, progression is faster, which I've never been an advocate for, but seems everyone is happy about this. And that's not even to mention the endgame bosses. You know, it might take a little bit more before the community at large is really engaging with that new endgame system, so we'll see. You know, hopefully by next week or a couple weeks, the tune won't be going back to negative. But overall, it just feels like this is what Season 1 should have been. If Season 2 was Season 1, I think the entire landscape of the community right now would be vastly different. I don't think we would have reached that the horrible lows of everyone saying D4 bad. Now, that's not to say that Diablo 4 is now a perfect game. Everything is 10 out of 10 in every category. There's still some issues. There's still room for improvement, but this has been a massive step in the right direction. If you hate D4, this isn't going to make the game fun for you. But if you were kind of disappointed or you got bored after a certain point, this brings a lot of fun back into the game. And I hope that we continue to see season themes like this one that gives these new transformative ways of leveling our characters while also giving more to do in the end game. I know some people are already saying, oh, I hope that they bring this into the game permanently. It doesn't necessarily have to be permanently into the game if every season we have something like this, but different, to introduce enough change to keep it fresh every season. I think it's the end game stuff where we need to always be adding more over time. But early game stuff, I think if we're going on this rotational thing, where there's always some exciting new way to level your character, I think that's okay. And speaking of those end game bosses, Duriel, some people are already farming Duriel. Of course, you know, Wudijo got to level 100 after, I think it was 20 to 21 hours, 21 and a half hours, let's say. Just a hardcore blasting session. But yeah, in general, people have been farming Duriel. You don't need to be level 100 to farm Duriel, but just to say, the blasters have really blasted. So it has been confirmed that Duriel does indeed drop those uber uniques that you can target farm. A Harlequin crest, a Shaco, has dropped off of Duriel. So there is hope for every one of you. But yeah, overall, I've been pleasantly surprised to see all the positivity. This has been a big win of a season. I was concerned. They were really hyping things up, and I'm like, oh man, they're bringing up our expectations. If we're going to be disappointed, that's it. Like, people are just going to be done with the game. So happy for the community and for the team and for all of us that we get to have fun in D4 again. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think they added a new hairstyle for the Rogue. They seem to have just snuck that in. I do hope they continue to add new hairstyles and eventually give us the ability to change hairstyle. But the biggest thing that I hope that they add as soon as possible is more, I'm going to call them social features, but really it's you know, things like group finders. We need more ability to party up with people. Talking about maybe being able to select what instance you're in so that you can party up with people. There's got to be some way to group with people that does not include having to be in the same clan as them or having to be on the same friends list, because this also makes trading cumbersome. There's this whole trade scene, for those who don't know. It happens on Discord, and the only way to trade with people is to actually like give out your Battle.net ID and then add that person to your friends list and then join them in game. Right? Back in Diablo 2, you can just make a game lobby and people can join your lobby and trade with you. In Diablo 3, you can join a community group where people are talking about things, whether it's, you know, that's sort of a group finder, right? Like, hey, I'm trying to, you know, looking for a group to do a Shava, and people can invite you directly into their party without needing to first add you to their friends list. It's just these very, like, basic social features that have been in games for decades now that is lacking in what ought to be the most social Diablo game ever. But of course, working on the core of the game itself, definitely priority. Now, one PSA I want to give to folks, because I've seen some confusion. Some people are saying, oh, my renown did not carry over. It did. It's just that it's not actually renown that carries over, it's the renown rewards. If you look at your renown, there's the top tier rewards, which are the small, inconsequential rewards. And then there's the bottom tier rewards, where you have your skill points, you have your max obels, you have your paragon points. Those are the ones that actually matter, and those do carry over. You can see it for yourself in your own game when you bring up the menu. You'll have the little check mark. It is carried over. And don't worry about lacking the gold or XP from those top tier rewards. You get, in one bounty turn-in, one whisper turn-in, like double to triple the amount of gold that you get from any of those renown rewards. By the way, if you want a full breakdown on the vampiric powers, how they work, just generally what... If you want some direction in what to do in the new season, what to prioritize, how to level efficiently while having fun and empowering yourself, I got a full video that's got you covered over here. And otherwise, if you're still trying to decide on a class, I also have a video going over what I feel are the best classes, not the best builds, but the best classes overall, right? So if one class has one build that's the best build in the game, Necromancer, Infinimist, best build in the game. But that doesn't mean that the class itself as a whole is the best class just because it has the most powerful build. Because I don't know that you're going to take that build. You might want to go with a Summoner Necro, and then you're definitely not S tier if you're going Summoner Necro. You're better than you were in Season 1, but you're not S tier, I can tell you that. I ended up going Druid. It was really hard for me to not go Rogue again. I'm really tempted by Twisting Blades because I still think it's one of the best builds in the game. But I'm actually really happy on Druid so far. I'm glad I chose Druid, get some diversity, shake things up, and with how fast leveling is now in Season 2, I might end up making a Rogue as well after if I accomplish all the goals that I seek out to on my Druid. I also want to call out that in the Season 2 journey, the final reward that you get is a Braggart's Cache that contains potent blood and nothing else. Potent blood is one of the resources that you use for the vampiric powers, and probably by the time that you've completed your season journey, you've probably maxed out your vampiric powers anyway, so I don't know how useful it is to get these at this point of the game. But I also find it quite sus that they're saying and nothing else explicitly, because they've also told us explicitly there is no cow level. So I look forward very much to whoever is the first person to unlock that and tell us, is there really nothing else, or is nothing else something secret? Could it be a cosmetic? Could it be somehow related to the secret cow level? Could it be a random, guaranteed, uber unique? I don't know. Again, it might be nothing, so don't get your hopes up. But sound off in the comments with your theories on what it could be. But to return to the launch on Steam. Right, so the game launches on Steam. First off, it's 25% off on Steam. It's probably the heftiest discount you're going to see on the game for a while. Maybe around Christmas they'll do another discount, but probably not more than 25%. But as expected, it started to get some bad reviews immediately. I'm actually surprised that the reviews aren't overwhelmingly negative. The reviews are mixed as of the time of this recording. 52% are positive. And going through some of the reviews and reading the contents of the reviews, it doesn't actually seem to be review bombing. A lot of the negative comments revolved around the game having lots of stability issues when the season launched. Others took the opportunity to actually go and write out their overall review. You know, there's some people that definitely had already played the game for some time on Battle.net before buying it on Steam just to leave a review and presumably refund after, I don't know. Otherwise, why would you give more money just to leave a bad review? But a lot of them were actually, you know, well-reasoned and thought out. It is clear, though, that they were not based on any Season 2 experience. But that said, again, if you're someone that just outright does not like D4, I don't know that Season 2 would change your mind on it. And again, some people are pointing to the all-time peak on Steam of just over 7,000 concurrent players, which is a dismally low number. But again, Diablo 4 has been out for, you know, 3 to 4 months now, and most people that were interested in getting the game already got the game. So it's not super surprising to me that we don't have a huge player count on Steam right now. And despite the low player count, it allegedly had reached at some point a rank 3 in global Steam revenue. Then in related Diablo 4 news, There's an event going on in Call of Duty Warzone where if you kill the Butcher, you get rewarded with a weapon skin, the Butcher's Sickle. To do this, you gotta first find a portal to the Butcher's lair. This is while you drop into Al Mazrah at night, or Vonded at any time, during the Haunting event in Season 6. Cool for COD players. I personally get a little miffed from these exclusive things where, I don't know. Maybe it's the completionist in me, but just this sense of like, oh, like, here's something that I can't get. It's like, I'm a player of Diablo, and there's something that I cannot get unless I go buy and play this game that I have no interest in. Like, at least when they would do the sort of crossovers with, like, World of Warcraft, it was generally just like, if you buy World of Warcraft, or buy the other Blizzard game, you get the skin. You don't have to actually play it and do things in the game. I don't know, maybe I'm silly, but this kind of stuff just rubs me the wrong way. Then lastly for Diablo news, Carbot released a new episode of his Diablo 4 series, this one addressing itemization, and as always, he nails it. Season 2 improves Diablo 4 in so many ways, but the underlying itemization issue remains. It's not gonna go away easily. It's gonna require some kind of massive overhaul. And when you watch this Carbot episode, definitely be sure to pause and read all the affixes. Next, on to some Bethesda news. We got two pretty important figures leaving. First off, Pete Hines. After 24 years, since 1999 is when he joined, Pete Hines is retiring altogether. One of his first major releases with Bethesda was Morrowind. In his goodbye message, it does sound as though he's just basically retiring and gonna focus on his hobbies. It doesn't sound like he's going off elsewhere. 54 years old, I mean, that's a young age to retire, but hey, he's made his money. We should all be so lucky as to retire at 54. And it sounds as though he stayed with Bethesda long enough just to see Starfield through to release. Pete Hines was a senior vice president and head of publishing of Bethesda. He's played a large role in the development of many of the games. Well, development. He's on the production side, but nonetheless, his input has largely guided many of Bethesda's titles. Now remember, it was just 2 years ago that Microsoft bought Bethesda. Well, indirectly, they bought ZeniMax, which owns Bethesda. It's possible that part of the plan was for him to retire after that, but generally when these kind of acquisitions happen, there's some kind of like a bonus for staying with the company. So it's possible that the term of that contract is now up so that he can retire while receiving that bonus for staying on for an extra 2 years. Wouldn't surprise me if we're just a few years away from Todd Howard retiring as well. I do think he wants to at least stick around to see Elder Scrolls 6 release, but that might be his last title before he retires. But Hines wasn't the only recent departure from Bethesda. On the same day, Will Shen also announced that he's leaving Bethesda, but he's going to join another studio. Shen was with Bethesda for over 15 years. He was a Bethesda design director who's played a big part in many of Bethesda's titles over the years. At the time of his leaving, he was Starfield's lead quest designer. He left Bethesda to join Something Wicked Games. This is a studio that was founded back in 2022 by ex-Bethesda project lead Jeff Gardner, and has grown to include veteran developers from BioWare, Bethesda, and Obsidian. And they're working on a Lovecraftian dark fantasy RPG called Weird Song. Meanwhile, another Bethesda veteran has left the company after 20 years. Lead designer Kurt Kullman. And as per his LinkedIn profile, he doesn't have anything else lined up. He is now open for work and looking for opportunities. So it's not like he accepted a better offer elsewhere. This is a little bit more damning of Bethesda, the fact that he's just quit. Kullman has allegedly been instrumental in a lot of the foundational lore of the Elder Scrolls. He's been referred to as being the world Bible of Elder Scrolls. So for Bethesda to lose him makes me a little bit more concerned for the Elder Scrolls 6. Not just because he's not going to be able to work on it anymore, but also, why did he leave? In other news, Souls-like RPG Lords of the Fallen released to pretty negative reviews on Steam due to performance issues and bugs. Since then, the reviews have turned to mixed. I guess as things got resolved, we're now sitting at 57% positive out of 11,000 reviews. But there were reports about crashing, low frame rates, stuttering. The developer even put out a quick guide to players on how to avoid some of the worst bugs. Apparently on Xbox, some users were having textures not loading. On PlayStation 5, apparently, performance has been bad with inconsistent frame rates. And on OpenCritic, we see a critic average score of 74, with 61% of critics recommending the game. If any of you people tried out Lords of the Fallen, what are your thoughts? It's a title that I was interested in, but now I'm a little skittish. Meanwhile, another Souls-like game, Lies of P, has been doing very well. They recently celebrated a milestone of selling 1 million copies. The game had released on September 19th, and it's sitting at an OpenCritic score of 82, with 88% of critics recommending it. And it doesn't suffer from poor PC optimization. It's also a game that released to Gamepass, meaning that at the same time of a full release, you can either pay to buy the game and own it forever, or you can play it for free or for the cost of a Game Pass subscription. And despite it being available for free at launch on Game Pass, it still sold 1 million copies, which for being developed by a small, pretty much unknown team, is pretty good. I've heard it praised for its Souls-like elements, but also for having a sort of Bioshock-style storytelling. And speaking of Game Pass, in some Microsoft news, Phil Spencer has clarified that no Activision Blizzard games will be coming to Game Pass this year. Previously, there was some speculation and rumor and alleged leaks, which I guess are false, that while Diablo IV and the latest Call of Duties would not come to Game Pass this year, that some of their older titles from Blizzard and Activision would be coming to Game Pass very soon, and Phil Spencer has debunked that completely. He said, quote, "I would love it if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that's coming in the next couple of weeks. There's not." On the Xbox podcast, he also spoke about his approach to handling some of the storied franchises and IPs of Activision and Blizzard. He said, quote, "I want to make sure that when we're going back and visiting something, that we do it with our complete ability, a motivated team that wants to go work on something and make a difference, not just create something for financial gain, or create something for a PR announcement and not deliver on the product. So I'm excited to start with the teams and what they are passionate about, and that's why I'm excited to go to these studio visits, and then we'll look at it." And he later said, quote, "Most important is that we treat them, the old games, with the respect that they deserve, and we don't turn it into some way for us to just do, like I said, a PR moment or something else." Man, Phil Spencer's saying all the right words right now. Now, of course, people can say whatever, and it's what they ultimately do. But I cannot imagine Bobby Kotick saying that with a straight face. In other news, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 released, and it's getting amazing reviews, a 91 average score on OpenCritic, with 100% of critics recommending it. People who've already played it are estimating that an average playthrough is about 20 hours, maybe 30 if you go for 100% completion. And reviews seem to largely be saying that it's basically taking the previous games, which were already great, or already excellent, and improving them slightly. This week we also got our first look at Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat 1. I encourage you to check out this trailer for yourself because I don't know how much of it I can show on YouTube, because the Mortal Kombat fatalities have gotten really realistically gory. And if you watch Season 1 of Invincible, you're gonna recognize some of Omni-Man's fatalities being straight up scenes from Season 1 of Invincible. And yes, J.K. Simmons is voicing him. Omni-Man will release into Mortal Kombat in November. In other news, City Skylines 2's release is coming up October 24th. However, the devs have come out and warned us that we need to manage our expectations because they don't seem to be meeting their performance benchmarks. They promise to continue to improve the game over the coming months, but it sounds to me like they can't delay the game. It's probably out of their hands, and they want to be upfront with players that we're going to get some bad frame rates and some performance problems, but they're going to do their best to fix it as soon as possible. It's kind of refreshing to see this honesty. I wish they just had the option to delay it and fix this before launch, but at least they're warning people. And in our last story, we saw this week the release of Skull Island: Rise of Kong. And in a year that is actually filled with lots of really solid games that are going to be competing with each other for Game of the Year, Skull Island: Rise of Kong seems to be taking a different approach, and is trying to compete for Worst Game of the Year. And guess what? It's winning. On Steam, the game has mostly negative reviews, which is surprising. I was expecting overwhelmingly negative. 35% of reviews are positive, but there are only 39 reviews. And it seems the only positive reviews are all memes. Like, Harambe died for this. And very good. I like the part where it tells me to use a key on my keyboard that I don't have. 10 out of 10. You know a game is a banger when it's called monkey.exe and has the stock Unity image. Product refunded, recommended. I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. This is the most fun I've had playing a video game for all the wrong reasons. I guess maybe it's reaching the it's so bad it's good crowd. Like, people are enjoying it ironically. Is that what Zoomers like? Here's an honest review that recommends it, yet it still seems to be like a negative review. I found some enjoyment in it, although the game doesn't reach the level of excellence or even fall into the category of a good game. This reviewer is saying it's not a good game. Recommend it. What does it take to not recommend it? What? Also, apparently the game could be completed in 4 to 6 hours, and it costs you $40. This is why, like, all the people that are saying, oh, Diablo 4 is a 1 out of 10 game, a 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 max, like, what would you give a game like this? I worked as a game critic. I've seen terrible games that fail across all aspects of being a game. Like, if Diablo 4 is a 1 out of 10, are we into the negative 8 billions for some other titles? If a game like Skull Island Rise of Kong gets the same score, or even a 1-point difference to Diablo 4, what even is the world? How are these two anywhere close? Even if there's so much that you don't like about one game, maybe people don't realize that games like Skull Island Rise of Kong exist. I mean, look at some of these reviews. How is this even allowed to be sold? This should not be something you can legally sell. Who gave these devs the licensing for this? I will never be as brave as the people who thought this is acceptable enough to release. All of a sudden, the Gollum game? Those devs are scot-free. Gollum is not getting worst game of the year anymore. They're not getting their Razzie. Those devs can now feel accomplished that they did not release Skull Island. Now, I don't know, I'm just looking at this footage and I'm thinking, this could have actually been a pretty good game in 2003. But it is the year of our Lord 2023, and we're seeing graphics on par with Optimus Primal in Beast Wars. Okay, I'm exaggerating, I should not insult Beast Wars like that. And in some late-breaking news, we have an official release date for Last Epoch. February 21st, 2024. While initially they were targeting the end of 2023, December was looking a bit crowded with other studios' releases. And they didn't want to force the ARPG community to have to choose between playing Last Epoch and other games. As a reminder, folks, check out my Gamescom Last Epoch interview, where we also talk about the new class, the Rune Master, which is super cool. And that's gonna wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to check out last week's video in which we discussed how the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft has finalized, and Bobby Kotick will be out by the end of the year. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rikers Raiders for more gaming content.